Welcome everyone to the channel. I am Erik Strauss. I'm here with Jonathan Dickinson. How's it going, Jonathan?
It's going good, Erik.
Awesome. Today we're talking all about AB Biller spear guns. This is the gun to have in the 21st century.
Someone had their coffee this morning. Talking about the AB Billers, and we wanted to go through the differences between the two primary models that we've seen our customers use, right? Before we get into that, I think that there's something to be said about this gun in general with the kind of the where people start. I've seen a ton of spear fishermen and women pick the AB Biller as their very first gun.
Yeah.
It's one of those kind of staple products that you tend to kind of grow out of sometimes you guys stick with them, but it seems
sometimes
to
you
be,
keep it around just to look at it.
Yeah, it seems to be one of those like staple products that you kind of start with, and a lot of guys have shot some nice fish with the Billers.
Yeah, there's one thing that the Biller is known for, and it's probably the reason that most people start with this gun. One thing, you can usually find them pretty good pricing, especially used.
For a wood gun too,
for a
right?
wood
That's
gun.
Big deal.
But dude, the things shoot a steel shaft every single time you pull the trigger.
That's true. They're unbreakable. That's
they're
kind
unbreakable.
Of one of those,
yeah,
very similar to like the
reliable.
Line. Yeah, exactly.
Very, very simple trigger mechanism. There's only actually 3 parts in here. One of those parts is a leaf spring. They don't even use a coil spring, which is kind of cool. So just super robust, very difficult to break, easy to fix when you need to, and they have a lifetime warranty on them.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think gets overlooked all the time is that these guns, like you said, have a lifetime warranty. So anytime anything breaks, whether it be if your safety goes bad, which I've only seen a handful of times, let's say the mechanism stops working, but if that happens, that's kind of why they can offer a lifetime warranty, is because the reality is that they're probably not going to break on you anyway.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, that lifetime warranty does not cover you bending shafts, right? Or your bands snapping, or your line going bad. But everything else mechanically on the spear gun, it's covered. So you can bring it here to the shop or give us a call, send us a picture, and we can send you out a brand new part. And in some cases, they've replaced whole guns.
The whole gun, yeah.
We've seen like super old guns where they would kind of start to bow a little bit, like the stock itself would start to bow, and AB Biller would replace it, which is pretty darn cool.
So they're, a standard, what you'd consider a U.S.A. style gun.
I agree. Right?
A little bit bigger stock, kind of taller than it is wide, right? So that's pretty typical design of a U.S.A. gun. Get a nice fat handle on here, easy to hold, easy to grip, big old trigger guard, and a nice butt extension on there. Makes this gun super easy to hip load. So that design's just, makes it great for scuba diving, for one, but also for freedivers getting into spear guns where chest loading, it can be difficult when you're first starting out. So a lot of people go straight to the hip loading. So that does make it easier for a lot of guys that are just getting into the sport, or girls, whatever it be.
And that's definitely one of the notable points, right? So with this huge, big back butt plate, using that hip loading technique is definitely the kind of desired choice of loading these guys. And in my opinion, and what I've seen from guys and girls starting out, is that team seems to be a little more achievable, right? It's less intimidating to try to put, some of the small handles that other manufacturers might have in your sternum, right, in your chest, and then trying to kind of balance that. It seems to be like a pretty natural state to stick that big butt pad in your hip and then go down and load that guy up.
Exactly. So we've got 2 different guns set in front of us. Now, essentially the same gun,
right?
But rigged a little bit.
Same handle, same muzzle,
same barrels, everything.
Different sizes, obviously.
Just different rigging. So a little bit different shaft, different shooting line. The bands are actually a scotch different, but not too much, just in diameter. So we'll talk a little bit about those 2 and why they made those differences.
You have this 6mm threaded twin barbed tip. And what's cool about this guy is that it spins freely. So when you shoot your fish and if the fish starts to pinwheel, he's not going to unscrew your tip from your shaft. So that's definitely
actually really like that design for
a good idea, right, for a double flopper. So definitely important. And then to get the fish back off, they give you this little collar to where you can pinch the flopper together and that collar keeps the floppers depressed. You can pull the fish right back off, but you want to make sure that you flip those guys open so when you shoot, they're able to engage. What also comes on the standard is kind of this little bit bigger, beefy spring. And what this spring, what the slide spring is doing is attaching your line from your shaft to your spear gun, right? So when you pull the trigger and shoot a fish, you can actually retrieve him. Now, it's kind of an important part of the process. But what we found is that with this kind of bigger, beefier spring, it tends to slow your shaft down quite a bit. And that's why we end up changing it over to something different. You can absolutely upgrade this particular model, the standard model, to get a smaller, more compact slide ring, they actually call it. But just something that you come standard with on this model. What also comes standard is just their regular material line. I think it's just like a Dacron style line with an inline bungee. So the bungee is actually tied into the line. The downside to this is that if you get a fish stuck on here to where like maybe you get a skull shot or something where it's a little bit difficult to get the fish off this way, there's no way to pull the fish out the back side of the line unless you cut the line or untie it. Yeah. So you can absolutely upgrade that and make that a change, but that's the way that the standard comes set up. And as you mentioned with the bands as well, that are coming with dual 9/16 bands. So the nice thing about that is it's a little bit easier to load, but you're also going to get a little less power as well.
Yeah. And all these things together, so all the specials are going to come with a 5/16 shaft. So it's just kind of a bulkier setup in general as far as the rigging goes. You've got not only this big double bar tip with like a big threaded end on it, but also the big 5/16 shaft and a big slide spring. All those things create a lot of drag, like you were saying, and slow down the shot. In combination with 9/16 bands, that's probably not the greatest thing.
Right.
You can always upgrade the bands. You could always change out the shaft to what we'll talk about here on the next model. And improve these things, but this is just the standard setup. This is what you're going to find in most billers.
In all the dive shops pretty much around the world, if you go to pick up a biller, it will look like this, right? 90% of the time.
And it functions fine.
Absolutely, yeah. You can definitely shoot fish with it.
Many fish have been shot.
It's true, it's true. But if you want to take it a step further and kind of improve your biller out of the gate, Erik, why don't you tell us a little bit about this Floridian?
Sure. So, in answering the call to a slightly better setup, Biller created the Floridian model of their guns, which, like we talked about before, is the same handle, the same basic geometry of all the other Billers. A little bit different shaft, a little bit different rigging with the shooting line, and they run the 5/8 bands with actually a little bit thicker wishbone as well.
So tell me about the shaft. What's different about the shaft?
Sure. So the first thing with the shaft is they go down to a 9/32 shaft, or close to a 7mm in metric. So that's going to be the standard size shaft that comes on pretty much all the Euro guns that we carry, like the Rob Allens, the JBL Reapers, and Rife Euros, all that kind of stuff. All use a 7mm or a 9/32 shaft. So right off the bat, you're shooting a little bit less mass, which means it's going to be a lot faster. So thinner shaft, faster travel, plus thicker bands.
They're going to help with that faster travel.
Yeah, it's going to give you a little bit more range, a little bit more power. Now the key thing there as well is reducing drag on the overall setup. So we talked about how the 5/16 shaft and the big slide spring and the threaded tip on the standard biller slows it down. On this guy, you've got also a double flopper, but they're all standard floppers. So you've got a little tiny Hawaiian flopper here and a much bigger Tahitian flopper on the top. But those guys lay flush in line with the shaft. Very reduced drag compared to something like this where you have a nice big threaded end on it and literally like a metal scoop
to catch water as it pushes it through the water.
And then the other thing here is they use Biller calls it the compact slide ring. So this is just a standard slide ring like you find on any slip tip or anything like that for spear guns. So just a nice, much smaller slide ring there.
And the cool thing too is that when you get into, let's say, what we were talking about before, you can actually change this slide ring, this shaft, and this tip to essentially make your gun a Floridian, right? Besides upgrading the bands and changing the line, you can do little things to help really improve your kind of performance out of your gun.
Absolutely.
I think the slide ring is kind of the slide ring and the tip are two really big adjustments.
Yeah, you can even, so like for example, the 5/16 shaft, a lot of people probably want to stick with that. You can even get Biller compact slide rings in a 5/16, so you can run your 5/16 shaft. There's smaller, more profile options for the tip, more low profile options for the tip on these. Some that thread on straight to the shaft and are completely flush, basically a Hawaiian flopper.
And you've got options.
You've got a ton of options, so you don't necessarily need a new shaft, although if you do want to run the Floridian shaft, you can buy those and put them straight in here. They'll work fine. But you got plenty of options to switch it up.
Last thing different about the Floridian is this fancy Kevlar line. So it's not just yellow in color to differentiate, it is actually Kevlar, which is pretty exciting. I'll let you talk about the Kevlar in just a minute because I know you're excited about that. But the other thing that's very cool to note is on the actual bungee, on the gun bungee, you get this snap swivel. So what that allows you to do is actually detach this line from the gun itself. And I can't tell you how many times I have pulled my line through my fish as opposed to trying to get my whole long shaft and flopper or slip tip back through the fish the way it came. I just pull the line straight through and make it super, super simple.
So, I mean, without getting too far into the Kevlar, basically the whole reasoning behind this setup, why Biller made this setup, is to just make it a much stronger, more robust rigging. So like having the detachability right here means you can switch, change the bungee out independently if you need to without replacing the entire line. You've got the Kevlar line itself, which is incredibly strong. Kevlar is a
1,000-pound Kevlar, actually.
Kevlar is an incredible material. It's actually organic, which is pretty weird. It doesn't melt like normal synthetic lines do, like Spectra or anything. And man, if you think Spectra and Dyneema lines are tough, they don't even compare. Kevlar is next level. You can literally take a razor blade to this stuff and rub it on the razor edge, and you won't even touch it. You'll dull the razor blade.
It takes some effort to cut through this stuff.
Yeah, so much stronger shooting line. They assume that most Floridians are shooting up in the rocks and that kind of thing, especially on the West Coast. So they wanted that nice, strong Kevlar line. And also all the other rigging is just a little bit stronger. These slide springs can have a tendency to straighten out sometimes or break. You had a big leverage point with how far this sticks off of here. So that compact slide ring is actually a little bit stronger setup. You just have a little bit bulkier, a little bit, not bulkier, but a little more streamlined. A little bit stronger setup. It's made to take more abuse.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the differences between the standard Biller setup that you're going to see in most dive shops and the difference between that AB Biller Floridian. It's something that if you guys have more questions about, we'd love to hear more about it. And if you guys found value in this video, we'd really love for you guys to share or subscribe to our channel as well. Do you have any questions for our viewers?
Yeah, if you've ever shot a Biller spear gun, I want to know what the biggest fish you've ever shot with a Biller is.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
We'll see you. Thanks for watching our video, guys. Be sure to leave a comment on our channel and let us know what you want to see next. In the meantime, you can check out all of our other awesome videos that we've already put up if you want to learn more about freediving and spearfishing, particularly this one over here. It's one of my favorite videos. It's pretty awesome. You should definitely check that one out. And we will see you in the next one.